As you're turning to 1 Corinthians, let me just take a moment and give you a quick update on some things related to COVID. We are, as a church and as a staff and as a team, trying to monitor what's going on in our culture, what's going on in our community very carefully. And so I just want to say a few things about what we're going to be doing moving forward, especially in the month of December. Let me just start by making a couple of really simple, basic statements that I think I want to use to frame our time and our discussion about COVID. We do believe that COVID-19 is serious. We have, from the very beginning, believed that. We do not think it's something that to be taken lightly. It's why we've tried to take protocols and steps here on our property to provide a safe environment. It's also why we've really leaned into the digital side of ministry. So if you're joining us online, we're really glad you're here. We have made a commitment to that and will continue to do so. At the same time, we are deeply concerned about not just people's physical well-being, we're also deeply concerned about the emotional, mental, and importantly for us, spiritual health of people in our community. We don't believe people are just flesh and blood. We believe that there's a soul that needs ministering to. We believe there's an important place for ministry. And so I want to just say a somewhat controversial statement. I hope you'll receive it in grace and with kindness. But I want you to know that because we believe worship is an essential part of our lives as followers of Christ, really regardless of what happens, from a policy decision, a legislative decision, we will remain open for corporate worship here on forward. And I know that there are some of you that have mixed feelings about that, and I understand that. I'm going to talk more about the rationale for that decision in a minute, but I would rather just go ahead and say that now and commit myself than wait until things kind of break a certain direction. It does not mean we're going to stop doing digital ministry. If there are some of us that feel less comfortable about coming as the days and weeks go on moving forward, we understand that. We respect that decision. You will never hear one word of shame or a guilt trip that I'm going to lay on you if you do not feel comfortable coming and you want to tune in online. Let me say that again. You will never from this pulpit hear me shame or guilt trip anybody that doesn't feel comfortable coming. But for those of you that do, we will be here. Okay, that's important. The challenge, however, and this is what I want to talk about for a few minutes with you now, that we are facing increasingly as a staff and as a team is that we are trying to do our best to follow the COVID-19 guidelines as it relates to people who've had contact to people with COVID. So you're aware that there are regulations that the CD's put out about if you are around somebody, if you have exposure to someone with COVID, that you need to be quarantined for, I think most of it's 14 days. There's some talk about that could change in the future, but right now it's 14 days. And so we're honoring that. We are respecting that. We are trying to do our best to follow those guidelines. But it is creating a challenge in our ability to do good ministry. Here's what we're hearing from you as a church and from our leaders. There are some of our leaders that are saying, Spencer, until things kind of calm down, we're going to be watching from online. We're going to go see older people during the holiday break, and so we're going to kind of circle the wagons, or we're going to stay home, so we won't be able to serve in our children's classroom. We won't be able to be in that preschool rotation, or we won't be able to help out with students for the next few weeks because we're trying to really pull back. There are others of you that have been exposed to people at work or in your family that have COVID-19. You've not gotten COVID-19 or tested positive, but you've been around somebody that has. And so you're pulling back for obvious reasons because you've got a quarantine. So what are we going to do moving forward, especially for the next several weeks during the holidays when we have a significant percentage of our folks that are saying, we're going to kind of pull back for a season. Here is what we're going to be doing moving forward. Number one, our staff is going to virtual meetings to avoid all of us getting knocked out if somebody is exposed to COVID. It just seems like a common sense step that we need to take rather than all of 12 of us getting cramped into one conference room, somebody testing positive, and all of us quarantining. We're going to be doing virtual meetings for our staff. And so it doesn't mean our staff members aren't going to meet one-on-one or in smaller groups, but the illustration I've been using, it's like the president and the vice president. They're never on Air Force One together. So if it gets taken out, they're both gone. We're just not all going to be together for the month of December to avoid what could potentially be a quarantine situation, which would inhibit our ability to do good ministry. Number 2, starting December 6th, we will do 10:30 a.m. only on Sunday morning. So that's the first Sunday in December. We're going to be doing just worship at 10:30. We will offer preschool ministry and children's church during that 10:30 worship time, especially for the first couple weeks in December. But starting December 6th, because of the challenge that's beginning to grow in our ability to staff things like children's ministry and student ministry and preschool ministry at the 9 o'clock hour, we would rather do one thing really well than trying to do both kind of just halfway. So starting December 6th, we're going to go to worship only really for the month of December. This is a December decision. We're not saying this is going to extend past December, but for December, we're going to be doing worship only at 10:30. We will offer preschool and children's ministry at that time. Thirdly, parents of student ministry will continue. There'll be things going on Wednesday night for high schoolers, preteen and middle school. There may be some things that you're communicating with about too. Student ministry will continue during this time. Number 4, our Living Nativity will move to a drive-through. We'd already been talking about that possibility versus walking through those scenes versus driving through. We're still working out the final details of that, but we are going to be moving to a drive-through format for that to try to limit some of the challenges that COVID's creating in the season. And finally, I want you to know that we're going to be elevating digital ministry in the month of December. We are going to do more from a staff resource kind of perspective as it relates to digital ministry. There are some of you watching online that have not been here since February. We're actually going to do something for you in the month of December to try to connect with you online, to find a way to reach out to you. So just know that in the month of December, we're going to try to up our game a little bit on the digital online front as things begin to get a little crazier in our midst, okay? So that's what's happening. Now, here's what I want to challenge you to do in your response. There are some of you that think I've not gone far enough with what I just recommended. And I hear you. I want you to know that I understand that this is serious and this is something we have to take into account. Please understand that the reason we are moving this way, in large part, is because we have seen the mental, emotional, and spiritual crisis that is at work in our families. And I just wish I could convey to those of you that are very concerned how serious many of our families, the condition that they're in light of what we've been walking through. So please, if you are concerned that I've not gone far enough or we've not gone far enough, please hear what we've said through the lens of we are trying to still do effective ministry in this very difficult season. On the flip side, there may be some of you that think, Pastor, you're going too far. We should just continue to go on like business as usual and everything's fine and everything's normal. Please hear me. There are the significant challenges we are facing in staffing what we're trying to do from a ministry perspective. Please understand that COVID and the regulations that are connected to it do create a challenging scenario for us ministry-wise. So whether you think I've not gone far enough or you think I've gone too far, here's my encouragement to you. Let's be sweet to one another. Let's not get ugly with one another about this. We have enough drama and challenge in this world. We don't need to add to it by getting at each other within our church family about this. We have worked very, very, very hard in this season to make the gospel the focus as a church. Amen. We're going to continue to do that regardless of what's in the news, regardless of what's happening online. We're going to continue to make Jesus what we focus on as a body, but we are trying to be wise stewards of the ministry God has given us. So we're going to have this posted online.